Hello everybody, Dom here with a quick tip and tutorial video. This is heat management part 2. I promised to come out with another one of these, so here it is, and I wanted to go a little bit more in depth as to heat management within your colony, especially if you're newer to the game. Some of these tips I'm sure a lot of people will find helpful. So to start, I wanted to look at the different material types that you can build the materials out of. And when you click on something that's built, you can see in the little highlighted square what type of material it is, right? So we built this one out of sandstone, and normally it shows up on the status page. But if you click over to the properties, you can see the specific heat capacity, the thermal conductivity, and the melting point. So this is really important when it comes to using it for a heat barrier between a few different biomes, right? So instead of looking at this one at the regular tile, I'm just going to look at the insulated tile, and you can just see the difference, right? The thermal conductivity is way lower between the two of them. So, and I'm just going to read it out loud. Between two objects, the rate of heat transfer will be determined by the object with the lowest thermal conductivity. So that is really important because it tells you how fast one type of tile will send heat through it. So that is why the insulated tile has a double the cost on materials when it comes to mass. It's because of this thermal conductivity right here. And we can even see that with the other versions of it. With igneous rock, for example, let's just build an insulated tile with igneous rock instead right next to it. So we have a thermal conductivity of 2, and then within a insulated tile it's 0.020. Now let's compare this insulated tile, the igneous rock one, to the sandstone. It's even lower than the other one, right? And the melting point is sufficiently higher, right? So let's do the same thing with granite. We'll do this continually for each individual material. The next one is sedimentary rock. We'll just create one of each, and then the last one is obsidian. So if we look at sedimentary rock and granite, they are not as good as igneous rock, right? The thermal conductivity is higher. It seems like igneous rock is the best out of these few, minus the obsidian. Obsidian has a melting point of over 2,000 degrees Celsius, almost 3,000. So obviously obsidian would win here. The only one that we can't make without going into debug mode is the abyssalite, and you can see that the abyssalite has a higher melting point of 3,421 degrees Celsius. So this would be the one that takes the cake. If you needed to build an insulated tile, this is probably the best material to use for insulated tiles to create outside of the base. Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover on the materials. Abyssalite is good for not just creating insulated tiles, but also things like, you know, pipes and anything else that you can make with abyssalite. I would do so if you're trying to stop heat transfer, because it is the greatest barrier against heat going from one tile or one material to the next. That's it for the materials. I'm not done with the video yet, but I wanted to start there because I did not cover this in part 1. So that is really, really important to understand, because once you start getting into the more efficient builds, such as aqua tuners and lava tamers, or not lava tamers, but volcano tamers, this kind of thing really plays a big part into making those builds successful. Now, the second thing that I wanted to bring up is, if you can find them in your cold biomes, the wheezewort. Do not underestimate these. They might not look like they provide much in terms of cooling power, But if you put them together in a row, see, I'm just gonna do this right now. Let's just destroy this section right here, and then I'm gonna turn this on, let all that get back, and then let's just put some Wheezeworts in here in some of these tiles, just so we can see how cold it gets quickly. 1, 2, 3, and then we want to spawn in plants, Wheezeworts. 1, 2, 3, right? So they are really chilly and they cool the region really fast. So with that, you can really help stagger the heat transfer from outside the base and from buildings that may create a lot of heat, such as the water sieve after a long period of time, or the gas range and the electric grill. Even areas where you have a light bulb, they can tend to create a lot of extra heat, so a Wheezewort nearby may be necessary to keep it chilly in that region. It's probably not the most effective way, but I know that that's one way to help deal with the heat, and that's about it for that. So say our base is dying of heat. Let's fill it all up with really hot oxygen really quickly here. Let's see, oxygen here. Let's make it toasty in here, right? Okay, that's some toasty oxygen. We'll look at the temperature. Everything is at the boiling point, really hot, hotter than the duplicants, right? Say we're struggling for all of this. Well, some of the things that you can do, because this will probably be closer to mid-game, is you can do an ice block like here or here. Let's spawn in. Do we have ice? I don't even know if we have ice. Yeah, they have ice. So there's that, and then utilities. You can make temp shift plates out of ice to temporarily relieve your base of how hot it is. So we're just going to throw these down into different areas, and we can see they will melt really fast. I'm gonna do this in slow mode so we can see this. But boom, they melted instantly in the hot. Instantly, right? But look at how fast everything started to cool off, right? So we can leave this like this for a minute, and then everything will start to cool off. That is how powerful turning some buildings, making them out of ice, can be. So if you're struggling to keep the base in a temperate color, that is one way to easily take care of it. And even if you have a mess, like, this is just helpful in general, just to get rid of all that hot oxygen. Let's get rid of those, and then let's do clear floor. No? Alright, so then let's just have them mop all of this up. Alright, mop it all up. If you wanted it to stay cooler longer, or it needs longer to cool off, then you just leave the water, but we're going to have them mop it up, and then we are going to fill it up with hot oxygen again. Actually, let's just do this again. Right, I just filled it up. It's still cold even though we had hot oxygen in here for a second and a third time, because I'm going to do it again in a second. One more time. Right, it still cools everything down. This is why this is so effective, right? Okay, so now on top of this, there is another option. If you, in your cold biomes, if you find, say, a cool slush geyser or a cool salt slush geyser, which is what we have over here, this is really good, because brine can get a lot colder than polluted water. We can see freeze point is negative 20.6 degrees, negative 22.5 degrees Celsius instead. So it's not much better, but it's still worth a mention compared to polluted water. So if you pump brine or salt water into a liquid wet reservoir like so, and you can see I filled it up, And then I encapsulate that in more cold brine. And then once it's all pumped in there, you can cut the pipes off, because once that is done, you won't need to keep throwing brine into it, right? Then just hook up the other one. And now watch what happens. What we're gonna go like this. Watch what happens. Even without power, all this cold brine is going down. Now in the base, we put a radiant pipe all along the edges of the walls, and this is going to cool the outermost portion of the base here, right? But let's go back and watch it. This is in insulated pipe. I don't want it to cool off anything but the base. So the radiant pipe starts at the base entrance and goes all the way around, back up top into the loop, right back into the other reservoir. Okay, so right now, let's see what's the temperature of the base. Temperature's pretty good, so let's keep filling it with hot water. Okay, now look at right here. So even though we filled it with hot water right here, the radiant pipe is turning the hot area right into cold right away. This is how effective this can be, right? And it's going to go all the way around, and it's just going to continually cool off the base. Now if this is too much, you can manage it. You can change the piping to a more suit your needs, that kind of thing. But generally, if things are getting super toasty, this is how I manage them to make sure that the base does not get over hot, right? So if this was how it worked, and now the base is cool all around the edges, then I would stop. I would cut the pipe right here, not there, right here. And then when this is all done, this should become all temperate again. Okay, so that is how I usually manage my heat when it comes to having too much in the base. Another rule of thumb that I would follow is once you have your main area for the duplicant set up and you know where everything is going, move these heat generating buildings outside of the insulated tile, either closer or in a cold biome, or just outside the normal area, especially if it's close by the farm tiles, because this is the main concern. If you put anything too hot near this and it gets them overheated, anything over 30 degrees Celsius on these mealwoods, and they're not going to be able to grow. If you look at the status, I believe it's 20. No, it's on the oxygen. I need mealwood. And then it requires 10 to 30 degrees Celsius. So if it's too hot, it is not going to grow, right? And that is the problem that we run into when we have too many hot buildings in the base. This includes oxygen diffusers. This includes anything that's continuously running for an extended period of time. This is why most SPAWMs are built outside of the base, away from it, in a cold biome, or with a way to cool the water, or not the water or the oxygen, or both, before it comes back into the base as oxygen. So that is a more in-depth explanation on how to manage your heat. The last part to this that I wanted to bring up is what was it? Oh yes, there will be a part 3 to managing the heat, and that is going to go over some of the more advanced setups for, like, I'm talking about, how do I say this? This is the anti-entropy heat nullifier. I think that's what it's called. And anti-entropy turbo nullifier. That's the one. And then what else? Maybe some aqua tuner setups things that require more close mid to late game setups to keep your base cooled without having a loop like this. But anyways, folks, that's it for this one. If you have any comments or questions or suggestions for newer players, please put them in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching. We'll see you in a later video.